Evening and welcome once again to Gaming Under the Influence. I'm Mike here with Alex, coming to you from GreenDragonCVR in Woodbridge to talk about video games. How are you, buddy?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm well. I'm enjoying Clair Obscur now. I finished Kazan, which was a great game, and I'm still playing Persona 3.
Nice.
About
nice.
60% of the way done,
Some
according
big
to my...
games. Big games.
Yeah, long games. So Clair Obscur is shorter than a lot of the ones I've played this year. So
yeah, true.
hopefully I'll be done it soon and just gearing up for Death Stranding in June.
Death Stranding,
Looking forward to that. How about you, buddy? What are you playing?
I'm playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Pretty
Fantastic.
much fueled a little bit of nostalgia, but also kind of, I mean, played it a long time ago when it released. We were practically kids or young teenagers.
We were young.
So playing it as an adult, it's obviously way better. And I think it hit like a sweet spot of open worlds that quickly spiraled out of control shortly after that. You know, not too bloated.
That was probably Rockstar at its peak.
It's literally peak. Like, honestly, it's a great game. Good story. Everything's just really cool.
I've never played it. I hope to one day, though.
Yeah.
Like to see that. We were just looking at the credits, in fact, and it was made by a relatively small team.
Yeah, it was big at the time, but yeah, nowadays it's nothing.
Most of the people involved were doing like voice work and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, a lot of characters in that game. A lot of
It's crazy how game development has changed since then, and how bloated the act of developing a AAA game has become in terms of resources and manpower.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's
something we can talk about a bit later in the episode when we touch on Clair Obscur Expedition 33 in more detail. But in the first place, coming out in a couple of days is something both of us have been a little apprehensive about.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, and that's Elden Ring Nightreign, which has apparently received like glowing reviews from all corners.
Yeah, it's like kind of surprised, but not totally. But yeah, it's been generally pretty positive from what I've seen, and maybe a couple of negative reviews, but mostly positive. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised. I think the Metascore is probably high 80s or 90s at this time, is it not?
I'm surprised, mostly because after watching footage, I thought I would want to play it more, but I actually want to play it less after watching the footage. You know what I mean? I feel like watching gameplay, I would get like FOMO or something, but I actually had FOMO thinking about it. Now seeing gameplay, I'm kind of like,
I know how you feel.
Kind of wavered a bit, but we'll still probably jump in and check it out regardless.
What were your initial thoughts when the game was announced?
Initially, I thought, I don't think I was as negative as you. I think I was like, okay, like I could see it, but I could see it working and being like a fun game, but it's a disappointment that they didn't announce basically a new, single player Souls-like kind of thing, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think over time then I grew a little bit more negative after kind of finding out what it was, even just the fact that the loop consists of runs and things like that, stuff like that. I was kind of like, as it unfolded, I was kind of checking out more and more on it. And then, I don't know. I feel like I had some excitement thinking about it today, but then watching the gameplay video, I kind of just tanked. And I don't know. I'm like 50-50 now on it.
Yeah, the gameplay does look a bit jank compared to the
which is to be expected because
mainline Souls games.
It's got multiple builds with different movement, right?
Yeah.
And it's... I know a Souls game would have that, like Elden Ring has that, but not to these extremes. Like we're talking like now you can run up walls and shit.
Yeah,
or, I mean, like it's quite expanded from what
it's definitely not like the full.
Yeah.
A full. It's not an all hands on deck kind of thing. I don't think, right? Like this looks to be made by.
Yeah, like a B team kind of thing, which is fine. I mean, it's a cheaper title too. It's not like a full
It is smaller
price.
scale. Yeah.
But just the fact for me that it's like. What would you call it? The fact that it's like runs, is that like a roguelike thing? Or
it has like it has roguelike elements involved. It has some battle royale elements involved.
Yeah, even like battle royale.
I've seen people dispute the both characterizations actually, but I think like roguelite is probably the closest, the most accurate moniker we put on it.
I think that part like bums me out the most.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like you do like a run and then it resets, right? And you do another run, because then it reminds me of a battle royale, because I've played battle royale games extensively in the last years when they came to and I generally disliked that loop where you would spend a few minutes gearing up on things and then see how far you can get. And I don't like it because sometimes you'll spend a couple of minutes gathering stuff, and then you'll get killed right away, and it feels like you're just wasting time.
Yeah.
You know, then you reset the run, and then same thing. Like, let's say, you know, you drop in a map, pick up a couple of guns, get into a firefight, and then boom, done. And then you have to restart the whole match. Or even worse, you're like 10 minutes in, and it's like you're kind of getting rolling, and then boom, oh, done. Like, it's just, it's a harsh loop that works well for, like, I guess, like a Hunger Games style battle royale shooter thing, but for this, sounds weird.
It does seem a bit strange.
Right?
I mean, for me, the biggest apprehension I have with this game is that it's something we talked about probably a couple of weeks ago before Kazan. It's that there's a set of mechanics, this like standard set of mechanics that people associate with the Souls-like genre now.
Yeah.
Which we probably don't even have to enumerate. Everybody knows what they are now. You know, it's frame-based action combat and rolling and flasks and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It seems like when you take away the world building that those are used to express by Miyazaki and other competent creators within the genre, like Kazan, actually, I enjoyed that a lot. Like Lies of P, you know, like Black Myth Wukong in the past 12 months, just to name a few. What are you left with then? Right? You're just left with a bunch of mechanics that, to me, like in the best case scenario, they're like a really flowery sentence that says nothing. Right? Could be adequate and they could be technically sound. Insofar as their mechanics, but if they're not used to express an act of world building, which to me is the center point of all of the Souls games, then they're not really the same kind of thing, you know?
That's exactly it, right? And it just feels like it would get, you know, boring to play over and over, right? Once you've kind of done a run or two, and then you're what are you left with, right?
Yeah, like the reason you sit there and learn the bosses and practice them and get through the game and, you know, in some ways suffer the loop, even if you enjoy it, is because of the fact that it feels like that's the means by which you engage with the world. That's what makes it all worth it.
Unraveling the world around you and advancing, almost like, let's say in Bloodborne, you're just advancing like the knight into the next phase. What's going to happen? And that's like the story, the hunt, right? Like that. I think it all ties together, right?
It does, yeah. Most of the Miyazaki games and the best non-Miyazaki Souls games, they all present like a recognizable, like an idiosyncratic view of reality and human nature that makes it worth engaging with the games, in my opinion. You know? And they cloak that metaphysic and that anthropology in like a in like the garb of, like, you know, ancient mythologies and like either medieval or Eastern, medieval European or Eastern, or, you know, like Lovecraftian horrors in the case of Bloodborne. But in all cases, they use this like imagery from, you know, drawn from cultures across the world to express like a unique view of reality and human nature. And I think like that like cosmic scope of the storytelling and world building is really what makes these games attractive propositions, you know? And if you take that away, it seems at the very least like it's something else. And in the best case scenario,
it a lot, right?
In the best case scenario, it can be like metaphorically like a really well written sentence that doesn't say anything, you know? But at the end of the day, then how good can the sentence be, right? Isn't that the function of a sentence, to describe something, to convey some meaning? And if it doesn't do that, then what is it? It's then just, what is it? You know? So I don't know. That's how I like felt when I heard about this game. Like, I felt like whatever it is and however good it plays, like it's not the same thing. And you know what? To be fair, I don't think the people who made it are trying to tell you it's the same thing. Like from the get-go, they're like, we're putting these bosses in for no real, like, they're drawing bosses from Dark Souls 3 and from whatever Dark Souls 2.
They're really, obviously, you know, not trying to hide the fact that it's like an asset dump.
It is an asset
They're very upfront about it. And
they're using like one tiny zone from Elden Ring and a bunch of bosses from the old Souls games to like just throw together and make a multiplayer game for people, it seems like to me. But, you know, they were upfront about that, like you say, and I guess they're trying to do some experimentation, you know? And it's not Miyazaki himself, it's some people that apparently approached him with this idea and that he approved instead, for whatever that's worth. So, I don't know, like, on the one hand, for me, it's not the same kind of thing. And the elements that draw me to the Souls-like genre, that have, like, driven me to play through most of the 3D entries in that genre, actually, and a bunch of the 2D ones. That's why I love that genre so much, what I just described. But without that, I don't know really how I'm going to feel about this game, you know? But at the same time, like, Armored Core 6, for example, which both of us really enjoyed. On the one hand, it wasn't like an asset dump. It was a legitimate, like, wholesale production on the part of FromSoft there.
Yeah, for sure.
But it also wasn't made by Miyazaki himself, and, you know, he handed the reins off to somebody under him, and just like he did in this case. And the same thing happened with Dark Souls 2, which I also enjoyed. So in spite of the fact that it's different and doesn't appeal to my preferences, and even to me seems objectively contrary to the logic of this genre.
Yeah, exactly.
It might have redeeming qualities of its own that I don't want to just write it off for, you know?
I mean, I've no doubt that it will be, you know, mechanically sound like, you know, like Elden Ring, let's say, whatever. I have no doubt that it will even be fun to play. I'm sure there's something there that we'll enjoy. Like,
that's
you know, it's just overall, I guess, as a package, once you come away from it. It's a less
serious game.
Yeah. And, you know, maybe it's priced appropriately, and it is what it is. It'll just be a multiplayer game around for a couple of years, and then it'll be forgotten, right? Yeah. It surely won't be like Bloodborne, like, you know, that's 10 years old that I'm still playing. I played it, you know, last year,
like
right?
That. No,
like,
it's not.
Yeah.
To me, like, the Miyazaki Souls games are like up there with other works of great literature, you know, from mankind's history. Like, in my opinion, people are going to talk about those in 500 years.
You're probably not wrong. We're still in video game infancy compared to other forms of media, right? So like, if you look at it down the line, when people have been talking about this kind of stuff for years and years and years, him and Kojima and, you know, whoever else will go down as,
I think so. I really think so as
big
well.
names, and these will be big works. You're right. Yeah.
And even the way that storytelling occurs in the Dark Souls games, like, so many people have started to imitate that, you know?
True. Yeah.
So many people have, like, this has become the de facto way to make an action game now. Even if you make it a little bit easier and you don't punish people as much for failing, like, the mechanics from the Souls games have been incorporated into almost everything you can think of.
Yeah, that's true.
Even Clair Obscur, like, a large part of the mechanics are drawn directly from the Souls games, you know?
The, like, really precise pairing, like Sekiro or whatever.
Even the way they space out, like, each zone has a, you know, like a bonfire style revive point. It's a flag. You go there and you rest, and your resources are restored and the enemies respawn. Like, the way that the games are built, you know, it's been mechanically very influential on video games.
Massive amounts of influence. You're right. Yeah.
And that aside, like, nobody really tells a story like Miyazaki does using those games, you know? And from my understanding, he wrote most of those stories and most of the dialogue in those stories himself.
Oh, really?
He got other people on board with the writing in Sekiro, but the overall story was still designed by him and stuff like that, right? So I don't know, like, what makes those games special is probably going to be absent here, and that's what really hangs me up about this game. That's why I was disappointed to see it announced, right? Although I honestly would have been disappointed if I saw them make an Elden Ring 2 as well.
That's fair to say. You're probably right.
Yeah, I want them to move on to something interesting.
I want to see something new in it. And you know what? That Switch 2 game, that Duskblood, was supposed to be that, and now I'm not sure how that's going to pan out.
Yeah. Another thing, you know, to touch on, like, that doesn't apply as strongly to Nightreign as to Duskblood is that the fact that the Souls games have been single player games first that incorporate in a secondary sense, like, cooperative or competitive elements, to me consolidates the fact that they're self-justifying games. They're not just tools for human interaction, you know, the way that, in my opinion, a lot of online shooters can be.
Yeah, and Nightreign essentially is kind of too, right?
It seems like it's at least, you know, designed with that as a primary focus, even if there is the option to play it by yourself, right?
True, yeah.
I think that, you know, just like you know, to make reference again to, like, works of literature from human history and stuff like that, like, what makes these so special is that they're self-contained. They persist through space and time without dependence on material circumstance, beyond the raw fact that you can still access the book or something like that, right? Of course, that applies here too. Like, you need to be able to play the thing as much as you need to be able to read something off a page. But once you translate yourself to the other side of the sign there, like, the thing that has been made by the author is self-sufficient, right? It doesn't depend on social approval or the engagement of other people for its merits, right? Whereas it seems to me like once you make the game primarily about socializing or cooperating or competing with other people, then there's, like, a level of dependency on external circumstances that puts like an expiration date on the thing practically, right? It makes its value contingent on outside factors, you know? It makes it more like a tool than something that exists for its own sake. So that's another thing that kind of hangs me up about this. Like, I have seen some people online who have said that they've played through most of the game solo, and that it's doable, at least in respect of Nightreign. But I guess with Duskblood, from what I understand, it's going to be an online multiplayer game, you know?
Yeah, I'm not even clear on what it is. All I know is, that it is some kind of multiplayer, which was upsetting because at the end of the day, I thought it was going to be their next, single player Souls-like.
Yeah.
As a Switch exclusive, like the amount of hype I was building from that trailer was like, oh my god, this is sick. Yeah. And then they said some multiplayer shit, and I was like, whatever. But
just like with this, like I'm still willing to at least engage with it and give it a try because, in my opinion, like a great example of a game that did involve like cooperation but still accomplished some pretty stupendous world building was Destiny, the first Destiny game.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
It had a bad rap coming out, but the way that game told a story and stuff was awesome. Like I loved
it. Similar to this. It sort of thrust you into like a mysterious world, very weird, and you would pick things up.
The lore delivery was indirect.
You had the little robot that would talk to you and
Peter
stuff.
Dinklage bot there.
It was cool, man.
It was a cool game, man. Yeah. The first Destiny was awesome. The second one started to become less awesome as time went on. Who even knows what the hell it's like now? That's probably a disaster, but I don't even want to think about it. But because of the success and the way that they handled the world building whilst there was cooperation going on was also pretty interesting, right? Because they made it feel like you were with other people in this sort of in a class of people like yourself, and the lore was delivered to you as a member of that class instead of as an individual. So, in my opinion, that's the best example of a game that managed to combine like social elements with world building and still come across as, legitimate and self-contained in its own way. Right? Leaving aside its technological dependencies on online and stuff like this, it's less important to me than the fact that it's, at least in its idea, like something that exists for the sake of its world, and everybody else is there kind of along for the ride, right? Destiny was good for that. They brought the expansions out too. I really liked it. So I don't know, I guess I'm trying to say I hope Duskblood will be like that, And I think in that it could have a leg up on Nightreign, which will probably be more like a throwaway experience.
Yeah. Nightreign is shaping up to be that, and like I said, maybe we even do have fun with it a little bit, but then it'll be very much a throwaway thing. Yeah.
I'm trying to like think of it, give it the benefit of the doubt to think of it as something like Armored Core 6, like made by a different team, but still incorporating Miyazaki's design philosophy. Right. I don't know. Hopefully it's cool, and hopefully, like, in spite of all this stuff, there is some interesting world building and lore in the game to enjoy. Yeah. While you go through the loop.
Would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice. So I guess we'll see how that pans out. We'll probably have a chance to give it a try in the next week after we receive our copies, but yeah.
Yep.
Looking forward to that, as much as I can.
Yeah, as much as we can. I mean, it's a FromSoft game, so they've given us a lot, so I guess we owe them this one. We'll try your game.
At least like I said before Kazan, like I was like, this seems standardized, like just Souls-like mechanics detached from any interesting world building, but I was wrong about that, so it's good to be wrong about things that turn out to be good. Yeah. Hopefully that'll be the case here, and I guess we'll check back in and
we'll figure it out. Yeah,
see what it's like. But in other news, I was reading yesterday that Clair Obscur, in the first 33 days since it came out, the first month since it came out, it sold 3 million copies.
3 million copies.
3.3 million copies.
Yeah, actually. That's pretty nuts for, I guess, studio's first game, right?
Yeah, Clair Obscur, man. We haven't had a chance to talk about this either, but I'm really liking it, man.
I haven't even really jumped into it.
I think you're going to really like it too.
Everybody I talk to says I should drop my whole entire life and just go straight
honestly,
into it now.
I think it's worth it, man. Like, it's... in the first place, like, what needs to be said is it looks and feels like a really expensive AAA game.
Really slick.
The only thing that gives away that it didn't have as much money behind it was like the slightly off lip syncing, which I'm not sure if that was designed for the French dub instead of the English one.
Very possible.
But in the cutscenes and in the important storytelling bits, the lips do sync up. It's just like in camp and stuff like that when characters are talking, it's a bit off. That's the only thing you can see in this otherwise like just ridiculous looking production, ridiculous sounding production that gives away that it was not like a $500 million game.
Yeah, it's crazy that it like looks almost like it reminds me of like Persona, just in the terms of like the menu and the presentation, the style, but it's not like anime, so it's more like lifelike, and like, it looks incredible. And
they did cite Persona,
you think
actually,
like that, oh my god, it's got to be like AAA, but it's not really. I guess it's kind of AA, but
the creative director there cited Persona 5 as like one of his biggest inspirations, and the best looking UI that's ever been made. And I think I agree with that. Like Atlas makes crazy. The Persona team has made crazy UIs that like stick with you in your head even after you're done playing the game. Metaphor was like that too, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, the art team there is incredible. But you know, Clair Obscur is it's a remarkable game, man. Like I heard that the budget was $20 to $30 million, including marketing. And if they've sold 3 million copies, they've already made like 5 times that amount back, right?
That's nothing nowadays. Between 20 to 40 million. I think most games are like well over hundreds of millions of dollars.
You know? Especially when they're developed in the West and with massive bloated teams and with famous voice actors and stuff like that.
Keep within that range, that's good.
Yeah. But what does this show? Like, you know, we were talking about how Final Fantasy Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16, they didn't sell 3 million copies in that time period.
No.
I think actually 16 did sell 3 million right before launch, or right after launch rather. But since then, it's only hit 3.5 million.
Yeah, and then it just like trickled to a standstill.
And that game, no doubt, cost a lot more.
A lot of money to make.
A lot more money, yeah. So, and Rebirth, I don't think is sold very well at all. I think it's disappointed them commercially. Even disappointed me in a critical sense. I didn't, you know, I came away like, though there were some really high highs, the lows were pretty low as well. So
agreed.
It's a strange thing that's going on in the world, man. When a game like this, made by a much smaller team, you know, we looked it up, there was 400 people or so involved in the production, and most of them were like voice actors and people doing the mocap and external contractors, but the core team was very small.
Yeah, small technical team of people.
And it bears a resemblance to like Kojima or Miyazaki style development, in that the guy who was the creative director is also the gameplay designer, is also the director of the motion capture and stuff like this, right? So it's really interesting when you have a centralized team, the kind of stuff that can happen, you know, how you can make something really special that's a giant bloated team of, you know, directed by a boardroom and no centralized decision making is not capable of, it seems like to me.
Yeah, this game really highlights that, you know, having that smaller intimate team with one person steering the ship and everybody else just on board doing their job.
A central vision,
you know, like all in service of the one guy. He's steering the ship, you know what I mean? Everyone just doing their part. And you know, like,
frig, man, look how it turned out.
This game's amazing.
It's crazy, man. There's like a enthusiasm that I feel when I play this game too, of the people who made it, for their inspirations.
Yeah,
they're not like bogged down by expectations or like market standards. They're like, this is the game I like, and so I'm gonna make a game like it.
Right? Exactly.
And you really see the inspiration.
The game I want to be playing. Basically,
it's very clearly like inspired, especially in the UI and how it plays, like in battle, by Persona. But it's also very clearly inspired by Souls-like games.
Yeah, that one I didn't expect. Like, we obviously knew it was turn-based with some active elements, and obviously the Persona flair with the menus and the style, but I had no idea it was gonna have also like
Souls it's stuff. Straight up like a Souls-like JRPG. I don't know how else to call it. Like,
that's insane.
The focus on parrying and dodging, especially on the normal or the expert difficulty, is I'm trying on the harder difficulty, and you know my characters get pretty much 1 or 2 shot by everything. If you don't parry or dodge, you can't make it through the battles. Yeah, it's not possible.
And how precise is the parrying? Is it like
parrying is like super precise, right? Yeah. But you get rewarded for it by delivering damage back at the opponent. Whereas you can do dodges, that the window is much wider. It's probably double. And you can also pull off a perfect dodge within that. So they intend for you, like they give you menu tips that say things like, if you don't know an attack, try dodging it first.
Right.
And when you get the perfect timing, that's the timing for the parry too.
So you dodge it, then maybe do a perfect dodge,
and then you're like, that's the parry timing. Then you go back in.
That's cool. All right.
It's a neat little. It's crazy how well conceived it is, man.
Very intuitive.
How is nobody? I'm thinking to myself, how has nobody done that before?
Well,
incorporated this kind of stuff. Like you do see, like, you know, back as far as Legends of the Dragoon, like there's like inputs you could, or South Park Stick of Truth had this too.
Yep.
Where you have a turn-based game, and when you're attacking, you can hit a button and you do more damage or something like that. There's some like active elements involved in the combat.
It's not a completely novel idea. It's almost a shame that people haven't tried to explore it and sort of flesh it out a
That's
bit
right.
more.
Yeah.
Why has nobody done that? Like, and that should have been That should have almost been like Square Enix.
Really, it really should have
with Final Fantasy.
Yeah, man.
Instead, they just moved off.
That term. Yeah.
Which is fine too, but like, why can't you do both? Or, I don't know. Like they moved away from it entirely.
I don't know, man. I'm open to like live, games that aren't turn-based, like live action or real-time combat. But still, also they specifically said when the game was being made. Remember, there was interviews with the director where he was like, "Yeah, it looks weird, and 4K graphics when characters are standing around waiting for their turn."
Yeah,
man, you're so wrong about that, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's just what it comes down to. Like, ultimately, I think that it's up to the guy making the game to decide what's best for the game, and in that sense, great. I respect your decision, but that's factually just not true.
No,
right? Like, this shows how.
It now.
Imagine if they had been tweaking these kind of mechanics since Final Fantasy 13 or something like that.
True.
And experimenting with the different ways to do turn-based combat that involves like.
Yeah, they'd be ahead of the curve on this game, right?
Yeah, that involves live action. They could have made that.
Yeah.
If they weren't creatively bankrupt, they could have knocked a game like this out of the park.
Sure, man. And there's room for both styles. Like Final Fantasy fans have been clamoring for a return to turn-based, or just never wanted them to move off in the first place. And it worked for some games. Like 15 was good. 7 Remake had really good combat. But again, there's no reason they can't do both, essentially.
There is no reason.
And we're seeing it exactly with this game.
I liked 15 a lot, and it sold well, but the games since then have not. Well, turn-based games in the same genre, like Metaphor last year, succeeded, right?
Metaphor, Persona 5, Clair Obscur now. It's almost making like a small comeback.
It definitely is. Definitely is. There's a lot of JRPGs coming out, and there's a lot of like old JRPGs being ported to PS5 and stuff like that now too.
And stuff.
So that's pretty cool to see.
Recently is
that's
one
right.
I haven't heard of in my entire life practically.
That's right. Yeah, that's it's pretty crazy stuff. And all the while there was like smaller games like Darkest Dungeon even being made by Western studios that had turn-based combat. So
that's right.
Yeah, it's Clair Obscur, like in so many ways. It's just such a surprising and awesome game.
Very refreshing, and especially with the way things are going with AAA and the exploding budgets and games failing, studios closing. Like it kind of humbles you and makes you think like, maybe these guys are doing it right, and maybe that quote you showed with Yoshida earlier, that maybe the industry should be going in this direction rather than the exploding budgets and the big things.
Shuhei Yoshida said something like, this is a great marriage of AA budget with AAA ambitions. And it looks incredible. I guess the technology that exists nowadays, like Unreal Engine and stuff like this, has made it possible for smaller teams to accomplish what before would have taken extraordinary resources. Right?
Yeah, true.
I hope more people catch on to that. I wish we could make a game, honestly. If that's playing this, man, I'm like, I want to make a game so bad.
Kind of rekindling that fire. It's not impossible. It's difficult, but
need people with technical expertise, unfortunately, not just ideas. But this game has ideas in droves, though, and the guy who conceived it doesn't have any technical expertise either.
He's just the
that's right.
The guy
creative director telling people how to act, designing the gameplay before people turn it into something on the computer. So it's really cool, man, like both in terms of how it's succeeded, and it's probably making people at big studios go, wow, we messed up.
Like you got to think it's turning heads.
It definitely is.
It's got to be.
Think of all the companies in the past few years that have funded these incredibly expensive projects that have not done well, and now they're watching this game just blow their projects out of the water in terms of sales, and they're like, oh man, we screwed up. With Dragon Age Inquisition, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Final Fantasy Rebirth, whether we like or dislike these games. I like some and dislike others. Fact of the matter is, none of them did that well.
None of them did great.
And it's really got to make you think twice. If I was an investor or somebody in charge of those teams, I'd be like, you got to get your act together. But
what's funny too, even if you go back a bit more, like the ones that I'm surprised even got greenlit, like the Suicide Squad and like whatever other Marvel garbage.
What's up with that stuff, man?
It's funny because this Elden Ring game is essentially the Souls version of those games. It's probably gonna sell well. It's probably gonna be way better.
It definitely is.
But
it's gonna sell well. I heard they already sold like hundreds of thousands of copies. It's not even out yet.
Damn.
That's what Goodwill can do, though, buddy. Goodwill, the studio has earned over a decade, since 2009.
It's true. I've seen
16 years ago,
I've seen a lot of people out there because we have obviously, you know, there's divisive opinions out there, and we're on the side of like it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, more on that
make
side.
The argument that they at least deserve the benefit of the doubt, and maybe that's right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's one thing to say I don't think it's going to be bad for what it is, and another thing to say I don't really like what it is.
I don't like what it
right?
is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not really our cup of tea.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fair.
Yeah, but you know, thinking of these games together, it's a really strange thing, eh?
It's interesting that they're both what's it called, lower price titles.
Yeah,
they're
is.
Both like kind of just maybe they're just in between years. You know, well,
FromSoft,
for FromSoft at least.
They made a lot of money on Elden Ring. I think they have now the resources to branch out to accommodate people making multiple projects at once. You know,
maybe it's
for them, it's definitely a good financial decision what they're doing. Like that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like they're going to make bank on this.
They're going to make money.
It probably didn't cost them very much. The assets already existed, right? The assets they probably spent lots of money putting together for Elden Ring. You know?
True. Yeah, I mean, when you look at it that way, it's a good business decision.
It's definitely a good business decision. Yeah. They had people probably without much to do in the intervening years between their major projects, and that's you know, you can see the rationale behind a company doing something like this. And remember all those years ago, there was like interviews going around where Miyazaki was saying he was playing Escape from Tarkov and he wanted to experiment with that kind of genre and stuff.
That's right. Yeah,
I think these two games are in the lineage of that idea. So
maybe it'll be a good romp. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we'll give it a try and check it out for what it is. But Clair Obscur shows that you can make a game like a Miyazaki game. And by the way, I didn't even mention the world building is fantastic. You know, the world building and like the JRPG storytelling in this game is fantastic. Like it's like walking through a Salvador Dali painting. It's so like surrealist and weird. Every zone that you go to, and they give you, you know, an overworld map like in a JRPG that eventually you get this like, I don't know how else to call him. He looks like the Michelin Man. Some just like balloon guy, that flies and like walks across the map with you. It's so bizarre and interesting. Like all of it draws you in right away. And like, you know, you can tell even early on because of these like flashbacks and dreams one of these characters is having where they're talking about if the people in the game are real. You know, it deals with some existential questions and has like also, you know, metaphysical ambitions with its world building. So I like that. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. It's not like, it's lighthearted in terms of the fact that it includes some humor, but it's not throwaway and it's not an unserious work. Like the people who made it have big ideas, and it's crazy to see them communicated, you know, in this medium. Like it reminds me why I love video games so much still.
Yeah, you know? Games like this will do that to you.
Yeah,
or kind of be like a nice refresher and be like, this is
why this is the medium.
That's the thing. That's why like things kind of get stale, you know. And then once in a while you need an injection of something just new, new, you know, not a sequel, not just something totally new
fresh
and out
new.
there. And just like, you know,
I'm glad these people are going to be rich now. I'm happy for them. You know,
I'm sure they'll continue on. Maybe they'll make another game. Who knows, right?
Yeah, I really hope so. I'm going to play that too. It's going to be great.
Definitely.
And all that aside, you know, it's not a short game, but it's not a massive game either.
It's not long either.
I think like 20 hours in, I'm about a third of the way through.
Well, that's not bad.
And I've been doing a lot of side content, so I bet you 40 to 50 hours I'll knock it out, and that'll be fine. It's not like Persona or whatever where it's like 100 hours. Or even I played Fantasian last year. That was 75, 80 hours
crazy.
long.
I didn't think that game was going to be that long.
It was big. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I guess that's our take on Elden Ring, Nightreign, and on Clair Obscur. Kind of apprehensive about one, definitely enjoying the other, but you know, in both cases, something interesting is happening in the video game industry these days, eh? Studios that didn't exist are doing things that the ones that do exist should have been doing, and the ones that do exist are doing things we never would have expected. So it's an interesting time, man. It's an interesting time. And a lot of the trends that nobody's enjoyed, they seem to be tapering off, dying out, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of games made with a certain mentality are just all the people who made them are being fired. Those teams are being eviscerated. So.
I think we're coming on to the other side of hopefully
that wave,
some terrible crap, and some better things down the pipeline.
No more Concords, no more Suicide Squads, nothing like that. That's for sure.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, people are going to be thinking twice about that. Yeah.
Actually, there was a notable cancellation today, and EA Studio shut down.
What studio was that? Do you remember?
I don't even know.
It doesn't even matter.
Not even worth. Not even worth glossing over.
No. Yeah. fantastic. So who knows? You know, maybe a new golden age is upon us already, right?
Yeah.
I've been saying that for years, though. I think, though. Yeah.
Yeah. There's always golden nuggets out there.
Yeah. Things have been pretty good, I think, in the past few years in terms of games. I've been having a lot of fun with everything. And Death Stranding's not even out yet, dude.
Oh man,
it's coming soon. This is a crazy year. Crazy year. Some good stuff.
Yeah.
Kazan, this game. Now Death Stranding, that's 3 bangers in a year for me.
Switch 2 comes out next week.
Yeah, Switch 2 is coming. I wish there was a launch title worth playing though, honestly.
Nah, you don't want to play Mario Kart World?
No, I don't want to play that.
I was hoping that that FromSoft game is obviously not a Switch title, but
it's
even
in 2026.
I just found out that that Donkey Kong game is not a launch title either. Like there isn't.
Yeah, there's not much.
That would have been like
funny that
something. Not really anything.
The biggest launch title is a DS game from a decade ago.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is that I want to play the Bravely Default, but yeah, it's essentially a DS game.
It is.
Remade. Was it 3DS or DS?
3DS, yeah. But it was easily 10 years ago or more.
Oh yeah, like 2011 or something.
That was the first. What's that studio called?
Bravely Default. Can't remember now.
Team something. Yeah. In any case, I really like their games.
Yeah.
Octopath Traveler, Bravely Default. They more recently did Live Alive, whatever it's called. Yeah. Good stuff. Hopefully, some new stuff will come for Switch in the intervening period too, but maybe it's time to cut it off, eh?
Yes.
Thank you guys very much for tuning in for this discussion about stuff in the video game world.
Yeah.
Enjoy your games and take care.